Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, March 1st, and this is the beginning of a reading vlog. I don't know if I'm going to do this as a week long or a month long. I've been dabbling with the idea of doing a longer form of vlog. I really enjoy Gabby Reads' monthly vlogs. I don't know if I'm quite ready for that, but I do have a couple of sit-down videos I want to post over the next week or two, so it would give me some space to do a longer vlog if I wanted to. But right now, it is 5:19 p.m., and I just got done having a nice little brisk walk with my dog. It was quite refreshing. And after sitting and fighting with InDesign on someone's computer for a literal 40 minutes trying to get it to work and behave itself, I won. It did not, by the way. I feel the need to move. Um, I walked into my apartment and I didn't feel bad, but I didn't feel great. And I think you'll know what I mean if you're anything like me. I am one of those people who does not live in a pristinely clean space, but everything that's around has a purpose, right? Like, there are crafts nearby my couch because that's where I craft. My Switch is sitting there, stuff's around. But also, some stuff's just not in the space it's supposed to be right now. Other things I'm debating, do I keep it? Do I get rid of it? I just feel the need to cleanse my space. Literally, I can see my dog's footprint on the floor because there's this little medicine that's put on her paws. And I try to let it dry for as long as possible, but inevitably she still ends up walking some of it all over the floor, so I need to clean the floor. My bathroom countertop looks like it's been through it, and it kind of has a little bit. There's just little shit everywhere. I have the audiobook checked out from my library for The Black Flamingo. I'm definitely starting this during this vlog. This will be the first book. It's only 4 hours, and I'm tempted to start listening to it while I do all of that, but I'm worried I'm not going to give it the attention it deserves. So I think what I'm going to do instead is pop my headphones on and start some backlog YouTube videos that I have of just people I'm subscribed to that I haven't watched in a few weeks that I would like to get through, and use that as my background noise while I clean up. And then when I'm ready to actually sit down and take a load off, I think I'll start The Black Flamingo then, so that I can really get immersed. Because if the audiobook's only 4 hours long, I normally listen at 1.5 to 2 times speed, which means this is probably really only going to be a 2 to 2.5 hour affair for me, and I would like to be present the whole time that happens. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to show you my apartment or not, the pit that it is, but I'm just going to clean up. Maybe you'll see clips here and there, but you will definitely see me on the couch later picking up this book with an update. Hi, it has been 3 days since my last update, and I only started reading the book today. I am having a good time with the Black Flamingo. It is very. I don't even know how to describe it. If you have read a book by Elizabeth Acevedo, if you have read a book by Elizabeth Acevedo, you'll understand what I mean. But there is this feeling of youth and a honesty that can only happen when you've had little harm in your life. And I don't mean that as nothing bad has happened to you. I just mean that you're literally a child, and in theory nothing crazy has happened yet, and you're hopeful, but you're nervous, but you're scared, but you also just want to try. I'm getting a lot of that, and it just feels, it's comforting. It's comforting. I wish there was clear lit like this when I was actively reading YA, as a young adult. I am 32% in right now. I can't believe I'm honestly that far because I really only listened on my lunch break, and I slowed it down. I'm listening on 1.5 times speed because I didn't want to lose the emotion, like obviously it comes across in the words, but some of it comes across in the delivery of the audiobook, and Dean Addo reads it himself, and it's just such a good time. I wish I had more to say. I honestly just made myself turn the camera on because I knew I needed to film a clip where I would just kind of get out of the habit of it. And so I don't really know what to say just yet. We've seen the setup of his childhood. We're now with him as a teen. And he is just to the point where he's realizing some things about his sexuality and that it may not be as straightforward as he thinks, but that also means that it might come with some challenges he wasn't expecting. He is in a Catholic school right now. He was at an all-boys school because they were known for their choir. And he was there for maybe a year and then left because some older boys made him and another boy from the choir fight. And it dawns on him later that maybe they picked on them because they could see something that they couldn't see about themselves. And in this case, because they were both very gentle kids and that they were likely gay. And they basically told them, like, you two can fight each other or we're going to beat the hell out of you. And Michael decides, well, I'm going to get out of the situation. And he like pulls the other kid's hair and like slaps him, but he doesn't really want to, but he just wants to create enough of a distraction to kind of get out. And as soon as he slaps him, he literally turns and sprints and leaves the situation. And later he's telling his mom, and he's not telling her like to be proud, but he's like, these boys made us fight today. And her reaction is, they told you to, and that's what you did. And I understand as an adult why you would feel that way, because there are situations now that I experience where my immediate reaction is, well, I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to do the right thing, or I'm going to do the thing that's challenging, or I'm going to do the thing that's difficult. But when you're 12 and you're facing physical imminent danger, or at least feels that way, and you don't have all of the resources to protect yourself, because up until this situation, he had been friends with mostly girls. He hadn't really experienced any kind of bullying. Like, occasionally he would have a little bit of teasing, but never any physical violence towards him from other boys at school. And that was his first experience of it. And I just felt for him so much. I just really wanted to hug him in that moment. His mom's yelling at him about, essentially doing what he's told, and it's not. But she doesn't see the conflict, and she doesn't see how much he didn't actually want to be a part of that. So I don't know. We're seeing a lot of things that to me as an adult are big, but because he's experiencing them for the first time, he doesn't know that yet. His parents are separated. He goes to visit his dad at his dad's family's house. They're Jamaican, and it seems like, I don't know that they all live in the same house, but he goes over for a holiday, and his dad lives in the home that he went to, but it's also where his grandparents live. And they set a place at the table for him right next to his dad, and his dad comes downstairs, fixes himself a plate, and then goes back upstairs and just like doesn't even acknowledge his son, which is heartbreaking and unfortunately relatable. His uncle is the only one in the family who is regularly there for him outside of holidays. Like, his grandmother clearly seems to at least enjoy him being around and like loves him, but she's also a very conservative Jamaican woman. And so at one point he comes over and he locks in, and she's like, only Rasta men wear that back home. Like, you need to go and cut your hair. You don't need to do this. And I honestly don't feel like she would respond kindly if she knew he were gay. I don't know if she eventually finds out or not, but he does get teased by some kids that are younger than him, but there's a group of them as he's walking home, and they call him a slur in patois. That basically just means that you're gay, and it's not an accepted thing in their culture, at least at the time. I don't know if it's any different now. I don't imagine it is. My grandpa is Jamaican, and he's been in the States since he was 18 years old, and he was talking about how he had so much to unlearn when he was here, and he's just the kindest soul. So he's like so accepting. I'm one of 4 children, and there's that running joke where if you have one of 4 kids, at least one of them is gay. And I always joke, I'm like, well, you're halfway there. Most of us are bisexual at this point. And he just doesn't care. He doesn't care. If one of us is bringing somebody home, for a holiday, he's just like, cool. So am I setting an extra place? Tell me about this person. Who are they? Do they treat you well? Like, that's all he cares about, and I love that about him. And I want that so badly for Michael in this book. His mom is very accepting when he tells her, because he doesn't have this big... I mean, it's a big moment for him for other reasons, but he comes home from school and he's like washing the dishes and he's clearly upset, and she comes in and she's like, hey, Michael, like, are you okay? And he's just bawling over the sink full with dishes, and he's telling her that he asked someone out and he got rejected. And she's like, well, what'd she say? And he's like, he says this, he says this. And she honestly just never really even acknowledges it. She's just present and there to hold her child's hurt as much as she can and just be there for him. Like, she doesn't have an adverse reaction to it. And in fact, she makes a comment later like, well, if you need to use condoms, right? Like, just that's all she really says. But it doesn't feel dismissive in the way where sometimes when you read that and you're not sure if the parents or how they're going to react and they just don't say anything. It wasn't like that kind of non-response. It was more of just an accepting, you're my kid, kind of non-response. So that's where I'm at now. I think I'm going to try to read a little bit more of this tonight. It is one of those books that I can't passively listen to the audiobook for, because even though the story it's very easygoing, very easy to listen to, like I said, because there are these moments where he is talking about things that to me are kind of a big deal, and he's just so passive about them, it's easy to miss, and I just don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to keep reading. And maybe I'll hit the 50% mark tonight, and then I will hopefully update you some more tomorrow. Look at me updating you the very next day. I finished The Black Flamingo today. It was so good. I am so glad I picked this up. I absolutely loved that it was told in verse, and while I only read it physically a little bit, you could very much tell in the audiobook. It doesn't feel like a poem, but just the way everything flows so naturally because of the intention that Dean Atta took in how he was writing that prose. It reminded me a lot of Elizabeth Acevedo's work. I can definitely see the direct comparisons people make, at least from their style of writing, but honestly even their storytelling styles. His was less flowery, feels like the wrong word, because I feel like Elizabeth Acevedo isn't the type to stray super far in her stories or to like really draw something out, but she does have this flowery vibe to her prose, whereas his felt very poignant, feels almost too heavy, because again there's this balance of youth and inexperience in some of the heavier content, and honestly even in some of the stuff that's not technically heavy but it's monumental to the character's life. And I just loved it. I loved every bit of it. 6 out of 5 stars. If you can read it on audio, I would. Like I said, Dean Atta narrates it himself, and so that just adds to how perfect it is. And now I don't know what to read next. I was reading a Second Chance like football romance as a way to make myself pace myself while reading The Black Flamingo, and I finished that today too. And so now I'm just sitting here like, ooh, what do I start next? I was checking my Libro FM ALCs, and I do have a copy of The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. That just came out today. And so maybe I'll start that, because I did start the ebook last night because I was trying to avoid finishing The Black Flamingo last night. And so I started that a little bit, and I liked it. That one is a little flowery in the beginning, and I kind of like that in a thriller. Instead of you feeling this overwhelming dread the whole time, when it has a more flowery vibe to the language, sometimes that can ease you in like a frog and slowly heating up water before it boils. And I like that feeling. So I think I am going to continue with that. But I also want to continue with one of the books from my TBR stack because we're 5 days into the month and I already picked something and finished it and loved it that was already on my shelves. And that feels so good and I want to experience that again. But I don't know what to do with that stack. And I also just agreed to buddy read We Hunt the Flame with a friend of mine. And I don't know if that was a mistake or not because I've wanted to read that book for literal years. And I could argue that it's been on my TBR for long enough that it could count as reading something off my TBR. But I don't physically own it in any capacity. I checked. And the other books that I would realistically need to start this week to be able to pace myself throughout the month are fantasy. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I will start the first couple of chapters of Forged by Blood and see how the vibe of that is. And then start the first couple chapters of We Hunt the Flame and see if I can even read those together. But if I can't, what I probably will do is check it with my friend for her timeline on what she wants, when she wants us to read We Hunt the Flame, and then decide which of the two to pick up from there. But I think I'm going to keep that mystery thriller, the New Couple in 5B, going in the background the whole time because it's an audiobook. I have an e-copy, but it's an e-arc, and it's one of those ones that came in a PDF format that if I read it on the Kindle app on my phone, the formatting's a mess. It doesn't work. But if I read it on my Kindle, it's fine, which isn't a bad thing. But what I find myself doing when I'm trying to slow down is sometimes it's my lunch break at work, and I am in my car, and I don't want to pull up my Kindle, and so I just pull up my phone, and so it's hard to obviously read something like that when that's happening. But in those same cases, I also could just listen to the audiobook. So, I don't know. I'm rambling. As you can tell, I put myself a little bit in a little bit of a book hangover. I won't call it a reading slump because I definitely want to read. I just don't know what I want to read. So maybe a little try chapters in order to get us going. Hello. Welcome to my couch because it's Friday night and obviously that's where I'm going to be. I just made dinner, and while it doesn't look super pretty, it's tasty. Some steak and broccoli. I just opened my mail and discovered 2 books in there. Both of them were sent to me by the publisher. Thank you so much. This one is called Antibot, and it's from, I believe, Mariner Books at HarperCollins. It's kind of like if a Stepford Wife was AI in a way. Antibot was created to be the perfect girlfriend for her human owner, Doug. Designed to satisfy his emotional and physical needs, she has dinner ready for him every night, wears the cute outfits he orders for her, and adjusts her libido to suit his needs. True, she's not the greatest at keeping Doug's place spotless, but she's trying to please him. She's trying hard. She's learning too. Doug says he loves that Annie's artificial intelligence makes her seem more like a real woman, but the more human Annie becomes, the less perfectly she behaves. As Annie's relationship with Doug grows more intricate and difficult, she starts to wonder, does Doug truly desire what he says he wants? And in such an impossible paradox, what does Annie owe herself? This is an unforgettable novel that combines Kazuo Ishiguro's exploration of humanity with the powerful narrative of My Dark Vanessa. Antibot is an explosive meditation on intimacy, power, autonomy, and control. I can't wait to dive in, and in fact, I might dive in this weekend because I'm having the hardest time enjoying anything I'm reading, and this is just so different than everything I've been picking up lately. I have Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro on my TBR. That's what they're referencing when they talk about his exploration of humanity and narrative drive. At least I think. I think in general he's really great at that, but Clara and the Sun, Clara is a bot as well. And then My Dark Vanessa is also on my TBR, and I don't know what that parallel is going to look like other than autonomy and consent and things like that. But with My Dark Vanessa, consent to me is kind of out the window in that storyline. Again, have not read it, but the premise of that is student groomed by teacher, and I know she doesn't think she was groomed initially, and it's like her grappling with that concept and as other people are coming forward. I think for most of us who are adults who think a particular way, we all kind of look at underage relationships with underage. I say it's not a relationship. It's just not. It's not in the traditional sense. It's not a relationship in any way of consent because that person is a child. It's not it's just not. So I don't know how that comparison comes into here, but maybe by reading this, I will go into both of those things more prepared. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so this one has a podcasting element to it. It's called Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. Celadon Books, thank you so much for sending me this review copy. I cannot wait to dive in. It says, what if you thought you murdered your best friend, and if everyone else thought so too? And what if the truth doesn't matter? Like, what else do you need to know? You know? What else do you need to know? Because why do you think you murdered your best friend? What happened? Were you in a fugue state? Were you on a substance? How did you get into that situation? I would love to know. I absolutely love thrillers that have a podcasting element to it. I'm thinking of Sadie by Courtney Summers, The Night Swim by Meg Golden. I absolutely love it, especially when you get to listen to the audiobook and it's a full production of a podcast. So I'm a little nervous that I'm going to be diving into this in a physical copy, but I would like to try it to see if it hits the same for me, if I still enjoy that conceptually. And for as large as this book looks, like in comparison to this finished copy hardback, they're the same size. This one's a floppy paperback. But page number wise, 300, barely, 325. So not crazy. And it's, look how floppy. I love that. So I think I'm going to pick one of those up this weekend because I started Forged by Blood. I tried reading the ebook and it was fine, but I was like, I'm not really like sinking into this. And then I picked up the audio and that was worse in a way. Now, it was only the first chapter, and so I really should give it another shot. And I'm not DNFing by any means. I just don't know if I'm going to continue reading it for this video. I'm having such a hard time. I keep picking up romance books because that's the genre I tend to prefer, and they're just not really working for me right now. The ones I've been picking up, now granted, the reasons I've been picking them up haven't been the best either. I've been letting people's hype reels get to me, and it's biting me in the ass. I really have to stop. I have to stop. I have to wait and look. I told myself I was going to look at people's Goodreads reviews less, and if something about a book intrigued me, I would give it a shot. And I am. But what I am not doing, that I also said I wanted to do more, was DNF a book when I'm not having a good time. And the reason I'm not DNFing it is because I saw that reel, and I'm like, I want to know how we get to that moment, and I want to know if that moment hits as hard as it did in the reel. The problem is, those moments tend to be around like the 80% mark. And do I want to commit to that? Now, on the first one, that was kind of like, was a novella. It was only 130 pages. So I was like, this is fine. This is fine. This is not a huge waste of my time if I don't like it. And I ended up liking it. It was one of those times where, like, you know when you're watching trashy TV and you know it's trash TV and your friends know it's trash TV, but you're like talking about it, you're just like having a good time. That book was the definition of trash TV. Like it was not good. It was not well written. It was trying to be funny and it wasn't funny, and I was laughing at it trying to be funny. The guy was calling his girl bro. Okay? That's all you need to know. It just wasn't it, you know? And instead of doing the same thing and picking up all the thrillers I have that are coming out in March and April that I need to read so that I can tell you about them, because that's what I told the publishers I would do, I'm still picking up just poorly written romance novels. When will I learn from my mistakes? When will I learn? Hopefully tonight. Hopefully tonight's the answer. My brain's a little, it's been a long work week, so I think what I'm going to do is eat my dinner. There's college softball on. It's the beginning of the SEC season. If any of you are sports girlies, it's happening on the main SEC channel and just across the ESPN app. So I think I'm going to sit back, read a little bit, watch a little bit of that, and see which one of these books piques my interest. You know, I think I'm going to try one of these ones they just mailed to me, because both of them come out this month. The one from Celadon, Listen for the Lie, is out already. And then Annie Bot comes out on the 19th, which is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, because it's the 8th right now. So I need to read them anyway. I may as well just read them right now. You know? Wish me luck. Hopefully my brain cooperates and accepts that I'm not reading romance. That's what I really need. I need my brain to get on board. So we'll see if I can make it submit. Hello, happy Tuesday. I'm having one of those days where things are fine, but little inconveniences keep happening and they're kind of driving me nuts. Tried making dinner. Chicken smelled kind of funny. Just kind of tossed it. Made some cilantro lime rice. It tasted like detergent or soap, and I do not have that problem with cilantro. I feel like something else was wrong. Oh, well, I made a rice myself originally, and that did not go well, so then I used a microwave rice, and that's when it started to taste weird. I don't know. I ended up having a bowl of cereal, and now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to sit my happy ass down. I'm going to read, and I guess I'm going to cuddle this one because her paw hurts, so she's feeling a little needy right now. Which I understand, sweet girl. I'm reading The Couple in 5B. I think I might switch to something else. I am... Let me check my Libro. I'm 12% into the new Couple in 5B. And I was liking it until they got to the new apartment building. So I don't even think I told you all the premise of this. So let me read you the synopsis of this book. It says, Rosie and Chad Lowen are barely making ends meet in New York City when they receive life-changing news. Chad's late uncle has left them his luxury apartment at the historic Windermere in glamorous Murray Hill. With its pre-war elegance and impeccably uniformed doorman, the building is the epitome of old New York charm. One would almost never suspect the dark history lurking behind its perfectly maintained facade. At first, the building and its eclectic tenants couldn't feel more welcoming, but as the Lowens settle into their new home, Rosie starts to suspect that there's more to the Windermere than meets the eye. Why is the doorman ever present? Why are there cameras everywhere? And why have so many gruesome crimes occurred there throughout the years? When one of the neighbors turns up dead, Rosie must get to the truth about the Windermere before she, too, falls under its dangerous spell. I initially was getting Riley Sager vibes from this. I was going to say Home Before Dark, but that's not the right one. It's the one with the green... No, Home Before Dark is the one with the green cover. What's the other one where that girl is like house sitting? Lock Every Door? Yeah, the vibes of this remind me a little bit of Lock Every Door, but I'm 12% in and we've already had like a paranormal element, and I wasn't really expecting that, and if I'm being very honest, I don't know that it feels welcome for me. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of keep going with this when I'm already kind of like icked out by it, I think I'm going to switch over to Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. That's the one where there is a like robotic AI that's living with a man trying to basically be the perfect girlfriend and human for him, or as human as possible because she's obviously not human. And as she tries to be the perfect girlfriend for him, she becomes less and less perfect because she starts to become more and more human in her behaviors. And that seems intriguing to me. And I really like that book is short. I think it's 240 pages. And I could really go for something that is punchy and to the point. And so I'm hoping I'll get that from Annie Bot. Hello, happy Wednesday afternoon. It's 2 o'clock-ish. I just got off of a conference call and I'm working from home the rest of the weekend or the rest of the day because does anything make you feel more like a child than when your tummy hurts? Like, what is up with that? I don't understand how I can go from being just a confident 32-year-old woman to a 6-year-old in seconds. Just affect my tum-tum. I started Annie Bot last night after putting down the new Couple in 5B, and I'm glad I did. I'm having a much better time with this one. I'm only 60 pages in. Just about to start chapter 3. The chapters are long. Chapter 3 starts on page 61. So the chapters are like 30-ish pages a piece, which is not my favorite, but because this book is so short, I don't really mind because I can feel myself progressing. So I think I am going to keep listening to the audiobook for this one. Libro FM added it to their advanced listener copies for March, which is incredible. Appreciate them for that because I would love to keep listening, but I need to work and I can't sit here and read. So this is going to be a great time to multitask for a little bit, and I will update you this evening with where I'm at. I finished Annie Bot today, and I have been standing here for the last 10 minutes trying to figure out how to tell you about it, because this book is only 240 pages long, but it had my mental just going like it was 400 pages. This was so good. This was so good. I honestly wish I had waited till the weekend so I could have just sat down and read it all at once, if I'm being very honest. I did not want to put it down, and I had to go to sleep and go to work and things like that. I'm so thankful that I had the audiobook, though, because I hit a point where I was like, I just need to finish this. I don't want to stop, and so I popped the audiobook in while I was doing some just task-based work, and I finished it. And I love it. I hope we never try to make in-house AI bots to be our companions. I found myself wanting to free Annie basically this entire book. And at the same time, I found myself feeling a lot for Doug, her owner, because at times he just seemed like this broken man who just wanted love, but wasn't willing to put himself back out there after a difficult experience for himself, so he got Annie. But in that process, he felt so much shame and guilt, but also power, and what I think he thought was love at times for her. It was a very good reminder that we have the capacity to do and be so much as human beings, and we have the capacity to be the worst versions of ourselves at a second in time, and to be the best version of ourselves in the next second, and that's possible for all of us. We like to think that when we're watching the news or, you know, a YouTube video, you're reading an article about someone who does something horrific, or someone who just does repeatedly, maybe not completely evil actions, I don't know, we would label it that way, but are just repeatedly negative and what we would consider bad. We like to look and point and say, I'd never do that. I would never be that way. But that's simply not true. It's not. Now, you may not go to the same lengths as someone else might. But what you do when you say, I would never be like that, you're saying, I don't have the capacity to be like that person. But you are also a person. And you do have the capacity. And this challenged a lot of my thought with that. What I really like about this book is that, at least to me, it didn't come off pretentious at all. It felt very approachable. I know a lot of people have a hard time with literary fiction, which is exactly what this is. This is not... There's a little bit of plot in this, but it is mostly character driven. It is mostly character growth and change. And if that's not your thing, I would still challenge you to read this if you do like the concept of intermingling humanity and AI, specifically in like living bot form. Because I think this is short enough that even if character-driven things aren't always your thing, I think it's short enough to capture your attention and still make you think. And I think it's entertaining enough because there are these different plot points interspliced in the nuanced thought that happens throughout this that make it worth holding on to. I'm giving this a strong 5 out of 5 stars. I think this is a great book. If you are intimidated by Claire and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, I know I tried to read that book a couple of years ago and had a really tough time getting into it, so I put it down temporarily. But after finishing this, I now want to pick that up and give that another try. But I think if that wasn't for you and you want something that maybe is a bit more approachable or maybe just shorter, give this a shot. Antibot by Sierra Greer is phenomenal. It comes out March 19th, and by the time this video comes out, I think that'll just be a couple days away. So get your library holds in. Go check Libro FM. Go to your local store. Get this. It's a good time. So now the age-old question, what is going to be the third and final book of this vlog? And to be quite honest with you, I don't know. I just don't. I have several things, and I have several things that I need to read, but I just don't. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I keep trying to force myself to enter a fantasy era, and each time my brain's like, girl, what are you thinking? Absolutely not. But I really want to try. I have an arc of The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong, which comes out on March 25th, so I need to get that read, but I don't have to do that immediately. But I just keep seeing all of his videos on, or I shouldn't say, I don't know his pronouns, all of their videos on TikTok and Instagram about people who are like, your book is filled with smut. This is terrible. And he's like, and they're like, I'm so sorry, my book is filled with smut, and then does something funny and like NFSW going on in the background. It's hilarious the way that they are responding to the commentary of this very adult novel. It's not like this is a young adult book that's being marketed and then has a bunch of smut in it. It's an adult novel. If you don't like it, like, just put it down. You don't have to read smut. There's closed door shit all the time. There's fantasy with no sex. Like, you can go do that. But that's not what this book is. It's just not what this book is. And so I might read this because, number one, I love drama. I love to live for the drama. And I would just love to see what this is all about because I really enjoy the personality they have shown us online, and I feel like maybe I would enjoy their books. But I also have the next book in the... You know what? I don't even know what this series is called. But I have Catching Feelings by Maren Moore. Her first book in this series is called Home Run Proposal that I really loved. I read that over the summer. And I've been looking forward to this, and this comes out fairly soon, I think on the 19th or the 22nd. So kind of in the same spot as that, but I really kind of want something to have an audiobook for. And while I have an e-arc for The Emperor and the Endless Palace, I also have it on audio, and that's giving it some more points. I also have Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer, but that doesn't come out till April, so I feel like I should wait till the end of the month to read that. I don't know. I could try Forged by Blood again, but that just felt so immature in the tone at the beginning, and I'm not really in the mood for a adult fantasy that reads like YA fantasy. I just don't want YA right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, and then I have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. My library is hold for the audios like 14 weeks long, and so is the hold at every other library I have a card for. It's not available on Spotify for, the monthly 15-hour credit. And I really don't want to buy it because it's a mystery and I'm just not going to reread it. My thing with using like Libro credits or really any of those services is I always get books that I know there's either potential for me to reread, or if they're like in a series and I'm going to need to come back and like skim through to remind myself before the next book comes out. And that's just not going to happen with this. It's not. And so I really don't want to purchase that. So I don't know what I'm going to read next, but when I decide, I will pop on and let you know. But I do know that I'm going to start some productivity sprints on my YouTube channel, and so you'll see a little clip of that here in a second. And hopefully at that point I will have decided what to read. Doing sprints, having a grand old time, trying to figure out what to read, but I think I just did. I finally figured out what to read. I have an audiobook from Libro FM. Thank you to them for providing that through their ALC program in January. It's called Confrontations. It's by Simone Arengana Bekono, and it's translated by Suzanne Jansen. It follows a 16-year-old named Salome who is part Cameroonian, part Dutch. She's living in the Netherlands, and she arrives at a juvenile detention center to start a 6-month sentence for a violent crime that she committed but does not regret. So she's expected to visit with a racist psychologist and perform her apologies. Salome refuses to atone, but even if Salome could get home, it would be no refuge. Her father has recently been diagnosed with liver cancer, and her elder sister Miriam's main preoccupation is to get out of the village as soon as possible. It says after months in the prison system, she realizes she must come to terms with her anger, sorrow, and guilt, as well as the crime she has committed and the real reason behind her rage. I'm 9% in. This audiobook's only 4 hours long. And I already really enjoy the tone of this book. I'm really in a literary fiction mood, apparently, but it's really working out for me. I'm really enjoying the tone of this book. Salome is very aware of her own imperfections, but at the same time, because she's 16, is having some hard time regulating her emotions and reconciling her thought processes with the big emotion she's having. It kind of makes me wonder what level of PTSD she might have from whatever she experienced in this violent crime, what drove her to it. Because outside of that, we've gotten a little bit of glimpses of her before this, and I mean very little, but nothing about her screams violent so far. But as I was talking about with Annie Bot, we often like to believe that we'll never be the type to become violent or to do these big bad things, even though we all have the capacity as humans to do that. And so I'm wondering if this is a crime of passion moment that happens, if it's, something that happened maybe after prolonged bullying. I'm not really sure what the full sort of situation is yet, but so far I'm really enjoying the voice that Bekono has given Salome, and I'm just going to keep listening. I had to get rid of the work I had done on this project and just frog it. I wound up the cake into a nice little thing, and I'm going to start knitting while I listen to this. Eating a Caesar salad right now. It's quite tasty, and yeah, chill Thursday night. Good things are happening. Hopefully the rest of this book is as good as the start has been.
The ends reached the duvet. She was wearing an old-fashioned nightgown, like my grandma before she died. I'm sorry, I called. I repeated it at least 12 times.
that time lapse is over, you got to watch me finish Confrontations. I really enjoyed this novella. It was a little over 4 hours in time for me. I listened to the audiobook the whole time, and it was so simple yet poignant, and I really enjoyed the way the author weaved in the events of Salome's life leading up to the big event that happens, and how once she actually gets there to explain it, it feels like the event is so small. It's not. It's very violent, but at the same time you're listening and you feel like it's reasonable and quite honestly maybe a measured response to other things that were going on. And it's one of those books that looks at the way that racism plays a part in the lives of people of color, and in this case, she is a girl who is both Dutch and Cameroonian and is dealing with not being white enough when she's in the Netherlands. And I won't say she's not black enough when she's in Cameroon, because that doesn't really ever come up as a feeling for her, I don't think. There are times where she more so feels like disconnected because she doesn't know the language. Her dad does not make a point to speak that when they're at home. She knows Dutch, she knows some French. And because of the French occupation there, at some point, a lot of people in Cameroon, I guess, speak French, because that was a thing that kind of came up about how her father and his sister spoke French. And that's how she communicated with her aunt, through like Skype calls. And her aunt's a big factor throughout this book, and is, I'd say, more radical openly of all of her family members. But then some of her dad's choices come off as maybe not radical, but can be seemingly violent to other people. But when your whole existence is so often threatened and chipped away at, sometimes overtly and sometimes nonchalantly, and people don't think that that's what they're doing to you, it's easy to see why those reactions would be that way. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job explaining, but I feel like if I were to explain better, I would be spoiling a lot, and I don't want to do that. So all I can say is it is worth the short ride. Don't listen to it at 2.5 times speed. I actually bumped mine down, I think, to 1.25 so that I could really not only hear what she was saying, but truly understand what she was saying and not let little moments fly by, because there are a couple of times where just the inflection or word choice is really important to understanding a piece of her life. So yeah, it was so good. I don't know what else to say, so I guess I'll just leave this here. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, leave a black heart in the chat, in the comments, and I will see you with another video soon.